Morning. I chose to speak about a very important woman, Eva Palmer, who had a significant contribution in Greek culture, like our friend Stefania Merapou, who also contributed in music culture as a director of music of the music library and as a musicologist, and she did so always with a friendly and supportive attitude to everyone and everything that could serve the highest purpose of promotion of music and culture. So, thank you very much, Stefania, for all the wonderful things you have offered to us. Thank you for being a great colleague and a dear friend. So, it is the purpose of this paper to focus on Eva Palmer Sikelianou's quite significant contribution, mainly in terms of the restoration of the role of the chorus as the main protagonist in ancient Greek drama, in productions of ancient dramas in the Delphic festivals of 1927 and 1930. I will also refer to her contribution to the preparation of the Delphic festivals through the looking glass of her views on music's role in ancient drama and the ways she wanted them to be materialized in these festivals. During the first decades of the 20th century, the linguistic battle preoccupied Greek cultural life. Music was not of primary importance in revivals of ancient dramas, an issue beyond the scope of this paper, but analyzed extensively in my book entitled Aspects of Modern Greek Identity Through the Looking Glass of Music in Revivals of Ancient Drama in Modern Greece. During the years of the Delphic festivals, however, music became once more a main concern. Eva Palmer Sikelianou developed an extensive theory on how music should be written for such productions and attempted to put it into practice in collaboration with the composer Konstantinos Psathos. The year 1927 is very important since the parameters as to how to perform an ancient drama were formed at that time and are evident up to the present. Music also received more systematic and thorough attention. The most important productions of 1927 were the first Delphic Festival with stage directors Eva Palmer Sikelianou and Panagiotis Kalogerikos and composer Konstantinos Psathos, and second, Euripides Hekuba with Marika Kotopoulis cast, stage director Fotis Politis and composer Emilios Riadis. Both productions, although adapting entirely different perspectives, gave fresh views as to how to perform ancient drama in modern Greece. Such a matter was of prime importance in intellectual debates of that time. As a result, ancient drama claimed its own place from which to start to develop as part of the Greek modern theatre. The founders of the Delphic festivals of 1927-1930 were the couple of Eva Palmer and Angelos Sikelianos. Intellectual and artist Eva Palmer Sikelianou was a highly educated and gifted woman who studied ancient Greek tragedy, music, and choreography. When she came to live in Greece in 1907, after her marriage to one of the most important Greek poets of his generation, Angelos Sikelianos, she embarked upon a thorough study of the modern and ancient Greek language, folk songs and dances, and Byzantine music. She shared common dreams and ideas with her husband, who developed a utopian worldview named as Delphic Idea. The main aim was the union of all humankind through poetry and even more through the spirit of ancient Greek culture. Such a union should take place, as they believed, at the heart of the earth, which, according to Sikelianos, was the place of ancient Delphi. These ideas were supposed to be materialized by means of the establishment of the Delphic festival. For the couple, this festival was the basis on which their dreams would become true. Eva supported Angelos Sikelianos' worldview wholeheartedly, although her initial aim in Greece was to establish a music school. Therefore, she studied with passion both ancient and modern Greek language. Since 1909, she studied systematically Byzantine music, aiming at restoring the importance of music's role at the chorus's parts of ancient tragedy. At the decade of 1920s, she collaborated in Paris and Munich with specialists for the construction of a panharmonion, which would accurately play Byzantine and Indian music, as well as music of other cultures. Konstantinos Psakhos, who was Eva's teacher of Byzantine music at Athens Conservatory from 1915 to 1920, invented this instrument. The final aim, as I said earlier, was the establishment of a school of Greek music in Athens so that music could restart evolving on Greek grounds, complementing thus the established music education. This idea of a Greek music school later would become part of a wider vision promoted by the Campus Sikelianos that is part of the Delphic University, which Sikelianos wanted to establish. The International Delphic University, as he named it, was declared after the Delphic celebration's resonance and the establishment of the Delphic Union in 1931. At the Delphic Festival in 1927, which lasted 3 days, starting from the 9th of May, Aeschylus' Prometheus Bound was staged, whereas the second one in 1930, apart from the Prometheus Bound, Aeschylus' The Suppliant Maidens was staged. Eva Palmer was the stage director. Also, she collaborated with Panagiotis Kalogerikos for staging Prometheus Bound. Ancient Greek texts were translated by Yannis Griparis in Demotic language. Apart from staging the ancient dramas, Eva Palmer supervised the music written by Konstantinos Psakhos in the Byzantine mode. Psakhos had as a main concern, as he himself argued, to support the sound and meaning of text by means of his music. The orchestration was by Kazasoglou and the conductor was Economidis. Palmer also made the costumes and wrote the choreography. Intellectuals, artists, and journalists from almost all over the world attended the events of the festivals and wrote extensive articles for them. In between the two festivals, Eva Palmer composed music in the Byzantine mode for Aeschylus' tragedy Koephora, which was staged in Paris in 1929. Maria Malandrinou was the stage director, scene designer, and choreographer, while Palmer, apart from writing the music, also made the costumes. She also promoted the Delphic idea, as well as her views on the necessity of using traditional Greek music for the chorus's parts in performances of ancient tragedy, by giving lectures in USA and France. She also wrote articles in Greece for music's role in ancient drama and for the necessity of having art at the core of cultural life. Palmer dreamed of restoring the unity of poetry, music, and dance that existed in ancient Greece. Her largest contribution, as I said at the beginning of my paper, lies in the restoration of the role of the chorus as the main protagonist in ancient Greek drama, something which was not the case in earlier productions of ancient dramas on Greek stage. Through the coordinated movements of the chorus and the music accompaniment, she attempted to bring forth the deeper meaning of the drama. Nevertheless, the important role that chorus plays in the Aeschylean tragedy was one of the reasons for the selection of these dramas, another one being Nietzsche's view, developed in his Birth of Tragedy out of the spirit of music, which exerted some influence upon Palmer Sikelianou. Such influence is evident, if nothing else, in her dedication of one chapter of her autobiography entitled Upward Panic to Nietzsche's Birth of Tragedy. Her views are in line with the idea of Nietzsche that tragedy sprang from the peculiarity of the music, and that tragedy was based in the beginning only on chorus's parts. The most important point of departure from Nietzsche's views is the answer to the question as to how music evolved after she gave birth to tragedy. If we compare Nietzsche's ideal aesthetic paradigm of music with that of Eva, we can easily observe a huge difference. For Nietzsche, balance between the Dionysian and the Apollonian spirit can be regained in the musical dramas of Richard Wagner, and through them tragedy can be reborn. Contrary to this ideal, Eva believes in the necessity of using monophonic music in an ancient tragedy based on the Byzantine modes. As she justifies such a different view, with the observation that Nietzsche, at a later stage of his creativity, declined Wagner. So, as I said at the beginning of my presentation, Eva Palmer-Sikelenu's quite significant contribution in the revivals of ancient drama was the restoration of the role of the chorus as the main protagonist in ancient Greek drama. For Prometheus Bound in 1927, 12 dancers and 2 choreophaios, Theos is leader in English, participated in the chorus. One of the leaders of the chorus was singing and the other was reciting the verses of the tragedy. Eva increased the number of the singing chorus by including members of the choir of Athens. The chorus of the Sublime Maidens consisted of 80 players, 50 dancers, 24 singers, and the leaders of the chorus. Dancing motifs were inspired by Egyptian art. And we can listen now to a music example of one song of the chorus of the performance of Prometheus Bound in 1927. That's enough to have an impression of what that music was about. So for chorus's role, Eva mentioned characteristically later in an article of 1963 the following: from the artistic point of view of work at Delphi, chorus was our main concern. In general, the celebrations were not based on a wish to revive things buried in the past, but mainly on an attempt to clarify the principles that were once represented by Delphi, and which are the same with the ones that the pioneer minds try to establish today. Nevertheless, one of these principles is the spiritual inheritance of the Greek race, which is preserved through tradition up to nowadays. We wanted to prove not only that chorus was the focus and reason for existence of ancient drama, but also that contemporary art's tendency is to progress forward in order to find again the perfect form of art that Greek race, at least in one of its parts, that means tradition, has kept its elements. Eva Palmer also developed a comprehensive theory rooted in her lengthy and thorough study of Byzantine music, which explains the necessity of using monophonic music based on Byzantine modes in revivals of ancient dramas. She believes, along with the composer Psachos, that Byzantine hymns have been evolved from ancient Greek music, and unlike European music, they preserve many of its characteristics. Such views were developed in her autobiography, Upward Panic, and in her 3 lectures of 1921. According to them, only Byzantine modes could express, to use her own words, quote, with amazing simplicity, all musical intervals and all rhythms that the human voice can sing. European music language is far from such perfection, unquote. Palmer dreamed of restoring the unity of poetry, music, and dance that existed in ancient Greece. She wanted to be in line with Plato's idea that chorus is the union of poetry, music, and gymnastics, and with Aristotle's saying that chorus expresses, by means of movement, morals, passions, and actions of the actors in a whole unity. In her quest for uniting music and words, she found insufficient the theory of European music, but quite enlightening the theory of Byzantine music. So Byzantine music for Eva was appropriate because her method offers a great variety of sounds and rhythms for the composer to write monophonic music in order to bring forth the words with clarity, in line with Plato's ideas. Her ultimate goal, through the union of movements, music and words, was the manifestation of the Delphic idea, that is, the idea of fellowship of all mankind, through the poetic expression of art. For all these reasons, Palmer did not intend to mix any European music techniques with Greek modes in her productions. At an interview she gave on the Delphic Festival early in 1927, she stated that everything had to be purely Greek. Quote, "On the one side, ancient art and life, on the other, folk art and life," unquote. However, her intention to use only monophonic music with the accompaniment of one or two aulos was compromised, since an orchestra was hired with conductor Philoctetes Economidis for all productions of the Delphic festivals to accompany the monophonic vocal music. According to Psachos' recommendation, an orchestra was put at the edge of the scenery at a lower level than that of the stage. At this position, orchestra could have no visual contact with chorus. At the second festival of 1930, Eva tried again not to include an orchestra, but Psachos succeeded in keeping a smaller orchestra with half of the music instruments. The reception of music written for the Delphic celebrations varied, with views quite vigorously supported by both sides. The positive reactions include reviews mainly by foreign spectators, but also by Greek journalists, for example by the music critics Prokopiou and Labelet. They all found Psachos' music suitable according to the spirit of the tragedy. Prokopiou in particular made a comparison of Psachos' music with Mendelssohn's music for Antigone and Gluck's, in favor of Psachos' music. According to his opinion, the other composers, that is Mendelssohn and Gluck, did not manage to articulate exactly the spirit of ancient tragedy. The very negative reviews include the attack against Psachos' music aesthetics and in general his ability to write music by the music critic Sofia Spanoudi. For Prometheus music written by Psachos but performed at another production which took place in 1931 in Panathenaikon Stadion with stage producer Linon Karsis and almost the same cast, Spanoudi wrote among others the following, quote, "The music that we heard yesterday, written by Psachos, made us feel how true is the saying according to which only one step divides the sublime from the ridiculous. But this is not about music. It is about inessential and boring sequence of high school's vocal examples, a primitive and inartistic statement by an empirical school teacher. There is not the slightest sense of musical structure or of an outline of rhythm suitable to be adapted to Aeschylus choruses, not even the slightest touch of creativity or contemplation of a musical atmosphere. It is only a breathless sequence of uninspired phrases of ancient modes and genre," unquote. Psachos placed charges against Spanoudi, and a trial followed at the Court of Justice. The composers Manolis Kalomiris and Dimitris Mitropoulos testified in defense of Spanoudi, claiming that her critique was objective and well articulated. Eva Palmer Sikelianou, by defending her own point of view, suggested that Spanoudi's critique was not ill-disposed, but Psachos' chorus's music for Prometheus was not purely Greek. According to the testimony of Eva Sikelianou, quote, "When Mr. Psachos was hired to write music for Prometheus, for the Delphic celebrations, I hoped that he was capable to write Greek music. Later, after I heard the performance of Mr. Psachos' music, I changed," unquote. So, we go to the conclusions. In conclusion, of course, the result of the trial was not to place charges to the accused. Everything was fine at the end. So, in conclusion, I would like once more to mention the important role that Eva gave to music in productions of ancient drama in the Delphic festivals. If we consider that in the last years before the Delphic festivals, music was not of primary importance in revivals of ancient dramas, we can argue that Eva was the one who restored the role of the chorus as the main protagonist in ancient Greek drama, and that, in my opinion, was her most substantial contribution. At the same time, she brought up the important issue concerning the kind of music which could be most appropriate for productions of ancient dramas. Her response to this issue was based on her extensive research, theoretical training, and also on her idealism and faith in the goals she set together with Angelos Sikelianos. In an attempt to reflect upon Eva Palmer Sikelianos' endeavor as related to music, I observed, according to my presentation, that at a practical level, it was not brought up to her expectations, as she herself admitted at the Psachos Spanoudi trial. At a theoretical level, her ideas on music were not in line with those of Angelos Sikelianos. Although they both shared similar ideas and worldviews at almost all respects, their views about music for productions of ancient dramas seems to be opposed. Sikelianos wanted to hire a composer with entirely different aesthetic and stylistic orientation than that of Psachos. He suggested, therefore, Kalomiris or Mitropoulos to write the music, a proposal which was dropped by Eva. Also, in a letter he wrote at the newspaper Vima, Sikelianos suggests that not only one, but two orchestras are needed to participate in the production of ancient tragedies, an idea which is totally opposed to Palmer's quest for monophonic performances of chorals with no other music accompaniment apart from one or two aulos. Finally, I would like to stress the fact that the aesthetic dimension of the performances at the Delphic celebrations was very positively received, mainly by foreigners who attended them, and that was mainly Eva's achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anastasia, for a really interesting and productive presentation. I would like to ask you about this. You mentioned this newly designed instrument by Antonio.
Oh, right. Show that again.
And it was, I would say, at the same time when various musical experiments with the creating new instruments at the same time in the Europe it was happening. The same searching for new sound for how to say, trying to escape this 12-tone visual temperament.
Yeah.
So may you say more about this instrument? Was it also designed for only just for this Delphic festivals?
No, it has nothing to do with Delphic festivals. That was designed by Psachos. It was the idea of playing in these instruments sounds that are not existing in this 12-tone harmony that we have in European Western music. And it was designed for not just Byzantine music, but also Indian music or other kinds of Eastern music to be played there. As you see, at the keyboard we have plenty. I mean, this is not a good, I don't know if I put it at a larger, sorry.
Yeah, but were there any specific compositions for this?
It has two keyboards here, and the first one has got more to play, more keys to play, so it produces more sounds which are in between the semitones.
It's like microphones.
Yes, microphones and that sort of thing.
And what about this instrument establishment in this academic repertoire? Was it quite communist or?
It wasn't actually used that much because it was just an idea. I don't know. It was Psachos' idea. It was because of Psachos inventing this instrument, and Eva gave the money. She financed the project. Actually, she had quite a big fortune and from her family, and all her money went for this instrument and the Delphic festivals. And she was broken after all this. But she gave the money because she believed in this aim that there are many sounds that Western European music cannot produce. So we have to find ways to produce these sounds this is what she found. She had this aesthetic view of Byzantine music, not ideological, that it's very Greek, or this is where we see the Greek spirit and so forth. It was because she thought that monophonic music and the method that Byzantine music gives, with all these microtones, can produce better the sound of the words and the meaning of the words in ancient tragedy.
And this, I would say that this was happening at the same time when the change in musical thinking, trying to escape all this 12-tone temperament, equal temperament, was happening in academic music as well at the same period in 20s, 30s.
Yes,
so
in
I
Europe.
think
In Europe.
Yes, in Europe and also in America, so worldwide. And
yes.
I would say that all these ideas, they were quite common around.
Yes.
Maybe any questions from the audience? Please.
Thank you very much for your announcement. The music of Delphic was given to Mr. Psathos. Are you have any information about the preparation of the chorus, or it was Mr. Psathos that made this?
The training.
Yes.
The training was by Psathos, yes.
Okay.
Eva was always there. She helped in many ways. All things, all sorts of mistakes. Production, she made herself the costumes, the choreography, which was also very difficult because she was very strict in combining words with movements. And she did that according to the Egyptian. It's very interesting. When we saw just a piece, when we saw this example, that was from the performance of the 1927, and we see that the movements are very well coordinated. But she wrote the music for the stage production in France, as I said, with Malagrini. She was the one who wrote the music. And again, the same kind of modes, Byzantine modes, monophonic music.
Thank you very much.
More questions?
Yes.
Thank you, Anastasia, for this wonderful presentation. I'm wondering about this concept of this imaginative. Because for me, it's very imaginative. Even for did you found any influences on Eva Palmer's thoughts about this concept on monophonic, for example, concept against Europe, for example, because we are in the pre-war period where in Greece we have this kind of generation of the 30s who would like to collaborate with Europe and not to be against them. And now here we have a contrary concept. I mean, against the classical music, we propose a knife. After hearing the example, for me it's very naive. I mean,
it justifies the trial and Spanutti's critique of this music. I understand what your question is a very good question, and my view is that Eva Palmer was an American woman. She was very much influenced. If you read her biography, she was by Athens Leotides. This is a very extensive and thorough biography. By European and American intellectuals, she was very well educated. Nietzsche was one, I mean, as I mentioned, she was not against anything European or American, but she wanted to find something what she thought that was most appropriate for the kind of art they wanted to bring to life with her husband, Angelos. And as I said, music was her own view, and it was, in my opinion, it was purely from an aesthetic point of view, not from an ideological point of view, because what you mentioned is based on what we know on modern Greek music and Greek composers and their relation to the Greek spirit and not to the European xenophobia in a way, or things that are related to ideology. I think that Eva had nothing to do with ideological purposes, but her aim was to put the words of the choruses into music in the most appropriate way. And she found, when she first heard Byzantine music, that was in France, and she was absolutely enticed. My lipstick. She thought that this is it. So that was an aesthetic thing for Eva. And then she studied thoroughly. She never identified herself with a Greek, and what the Greeks are supposed to do. But she wanted, as with Sikelianos, the Delphic idea is from the starting point of Delphi to have the whole humanity as a brotherhood and art to be at the goal of this life. So no ideological trends, I think, were on stake.
Thank you, Anastasia. I see one more question, if briefly, as we have to move.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I have more a comment, not a question. For the last section that you said that Eva Palmer at the end she criticized a little bit Psathos' music for the Delphic Festival. So at first she really enjoyed his compositions, and we can see that through their correspondence. But after the Delphic festivals, their relationship was damaged and fighting a lot. So this is one of the reasons why she criticized his music. And after they ended their relationship, she turned to his opposite, Simon Karas, so that he wrote the music for the next Delphic festivals. Just for a comment, maybe it
That's
was
right,
not.
yeah. It was not meant to be held here.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot.
You're right. Yes, that was it.
Thank you very much for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Anastasia, again.
Thanks, everyone.
I would like now to invite our third presenter,